Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
March 13th meeting of the Commission on Aging Well. First order of business is approval of the minutes of our February 13th meeting. Did everyone have a chance to review them? And are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the meeting?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. We have no public appearances for the, just to bring up issues for us. So we will move on to the agenda outreach discussion.
All right. So we're going to kind of continue on from our last meeting and really kind of drill down a little bit more in outreach and what that looks like for the center. And in your packet, and I'll put sort of the items for discussion that I shared, and these, are just kind of some guidelines here. But I also, before we even dive into that, I was going through the Area Agency on Aging plan. So every 2 years, the area agencies on agings across the state have to submit a plan for a 2-year period. And so in that plan, which is, I think I linked, possibly, did I, to your packet? It's like 70 pages. But I found this document kind of interesting and sort of connected to what we're doing for the demographics. And so I'm going to try to make that a little bit bigger. There's Fitchburg. Okay, so they compiled this data to kind of give us a snapshot of where we are right now for Fitchburg's older adults 60 and up. And I just thought it was really interesting. So moving over to the category age 60 and over, that's who we're funded to serve. We are ranking high. I think when I gave census data and what I tried to pull together, we were at about 5,400 or something around there. They're saying we're at 6,000 age 60 plus. So that's pretty high when you look at Newbridge, obviously, is all of Madison, and that's got about 51,000. Next is Colonial Club, and you can see Colonial Club's up in the right-hand corner. They cover a lot of territory, including Cottage Grove, Cambridge, and just a lot of different towns out in that area. So they have a big population. But after that, we're pretty much third. Those categories at the top, 60 to 64, 75 to 84, 85 plus, 65 living alone, food share eligibility, and then rural. So those are the categories. When I talk about how we are funded, those are the categories that the funding is put into. And based on the percentage in relation with the 11 other focal points, that's how our funding is allocated. So if we weigh really heavy on having people 85 plus, like our percentage is really high, then we're going to get more money in that category. So they weight each of those categories differently. Like, maybe the 85 plus is weighted at 10%. Maybe the 60 to 74 is weighted at 5%. I can give you those percentages. I can't remember them off my head. Food share eligibility. If you have a lot of a high percentage of that, that's gonna be weighted higher because they are making assumptions people might be lower income and have more needs. So this is the categories that we're funded out of for nutrition and case management. So that kind of gives you a snapshot. So anyway, I thought this was just a really helpful graph of our demographics. And then way at the end there is the people of color that are 60 plus. And so, you know, we're pretty high up there. Besides Newbridge, it's, you know, 66,600. Next is Sun Prairie at 921. And then next is Fitchburg at 863. So they're saying our percentage of older adults that are 60 plus, 8.5% are people of color. So we are third in line. Sun Prairie is 9%, and then Madison is 65%. So, good morning. The next, you know, right after us at 8.5%, no one really comes close to us or Sun Prairie. 2% is Belleville, which is interesting. 4% Middleton, I should say, is the next closest. So again, it's just saying, you know what, Fitchburg has grown. We have a lot of older adults over 60, and we do have a relatively high percent in comparison with the other Dane County focal points of people of color. So I just wanted to share that. There's a lot of other good information in that aging plan if you want to browse through it when you have your free time. But so anyway, any questions about that? No? Okay. All right, so back to our discussion about goals, outreach. It's about outreach, but I think we need to really define what outreach is, what that looks like. I think there's different kinds of outreach to different kind of target audiences, and I think by sort of diving a little deeper in that, it will help give myself, this board, the friends, volunteers, ambassadors, who are we reaching and how, and what are those, what are our strategies to reach those different areas? And so, you know, when I think about outreach, I only think about it in my head is reaching vulnerable seniors and reaching people that don't know about us. And that doesn't necessarily mean the same to me. There's a lot of older adults in this community that might not be vulnerable, but they don't know about the senior center. So maybe that's our volunteers, our donors, people that, you know, just don't know, and maybe they want to know our services later. And then the vulnerable, those people that do need us but don't know our services are out there. So that's what I think of when I think of outreach.
And also those that represent the vulnerable, right? I mean, like caregivers, children, parents. Maybe who would be advocates for their vulnerable people.
As you speak to vulnerable, just from your perspective, can you define that a little bit?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be income-based. To me, it's people that are isolated, that are having trouble staying in their own homes, that may have physical or mental challenges. But I consider social isolation also challenging because that is connected to, you know, a health determinant. So I think of that's kind of it. Like they could be down here on Lacey Road, or they could be over across Verona Road, and just be in their homes struggling and isolated. Then when you take it a step further, you know, do they have income that can help support them in the home? If they don't, how would we connect them? But that's when I think about vulnerable. Anybody that's at risk of being socially isolated, not knowing about services, not knowing about the center and how they can come here and, you know, socialize with people and be engaged and take advantage of what we have to offer. That's what I think about vulnerable. So.
It's a big umbrella. Okay, thank you.
That's a big umbrella.
It's a big umbrella, yeah.
Right.
And so it could be a lot of
It can be a lot, right.
Things, yeah.
Exactly.
I just want to just clarify whether or not oftentimes people think that that's low income, you're vulnerable, or and it's not. It's so much broader than that.
It's so much broader than that. But then you can keep scaling it down or breaking it into buckets of, you know, do they fit in here? So then that outreach might look differently. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I appreciate everybody's input today, like Paul, and caregivers, parents, other people that are supporting people, and outreach to that. What do you think, Janice?
In terms of?
Outreach, like what do you,
Again, like I said, outreach is so broad, and if you think about it from a noun's perspective, it really is to reach out.
Mm-hmm.
You think about it from a verb, is to reach out above and beyond. So it's broad, and so it could go either way. The thing for me in outreach is there's so many different categories of outreach,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't just say, oftentimes people say, let's do outreach, right? That's everywhere. That could be any and everything. I just think for me, outreach is, let's focus on a segment. There's segments of outreach, and so that's my thought. Whether it's working with organizations, it's working with vulnerable individuals, working with individuals of color, or focusing on age groups. So there's oftentimes many different categories of outreach, and so that's the clarification for me. I like to take a look at it and what are we really talking about when we talk outreach?
Well, right. And then when we decide it can be all these categories, then what are the strategies?
Yes,
under
because you
each of
can't
them?
do it all.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think from today, that we have some of these buckets or titles of outreach to the community, outreach to the vulnerable, outreach to the people of color, outreach, and then developing these strategies and figuring out how do we do that, with staff, with volunteers, and that kind of stuff.
So is your question, what do I think outreach is, or where do I think the focus of outreach?
I think I want to go through both for everybody today to just get just throw it out there, almost like a mind map.
Then let me add to what I was saying. I think it's the community as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And then within that community as a whole, I think you break it down to say, okay, who do we really want to reach? Whether it's about age, whether it's about people of color or disabilities or what have you. But for me, it's the community as a whole.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's an interesting piggybacking or taking that thought to the next step. My first inclination is to drill down and get more granular and jump to strategies.
Mm-hmm.
But backing away from that and looking at outreach in terms of creating a greater awareness in a more global, not global, but global, community global sense, then does that help then facilitate that more granular? What I'm envisioning is if more people know about what happens here to support the vulnerable populations. If all of our people know, then when there's a need, then we can speak to that, rather than at the granular level reaching out to that isolated person. We're not, given that where we are on the fulcrum of technology today, we're probably not going to be able to reach out to that individual. Mm-hmm. But are there people in that world, and that demographic's changing a bit too as we look at family structure changes, who were those caregivers 20 years ago or 30 years ago, our adult children and adult grandchildren? Well, they live all over the place today. Mm-hmm. So relying on that that family structure to help with that awareness, that doesn't exist much any longer. So if instead of trying to get to that granular, and that's the Donna Stewart approach is, give me names and I'll go knock on their door. To instead say, we need to create a greater awareness of what we do and for whom. And so we talk with our neighbors and we talk at every organization that we're with. And then when there's somebody that you talk to, knows a person that's in need, that they can then kind of connect those dots, which is a real different kind of outreach.
Right. Than just going to a presentation to say, we do this.
But, and particularly against the backdrop now of funding issues, if we're going to have to advocate, if the USDA cuts funding for the meals program, then we need more awareness throughout Fitchburg in the need for a stronger, more vibrant donor population.
Yeah. Bonds, I don't want to forget you on Zoom here. You have anything to add? I just want to make sure. Okay. All right, Donald, got anything about what does outreach mean to you?
Pretty much, like, not a different definition. I think it just looks a little different, that's all. In terms of just making sure that as a council member, when we're meeting our constituents and talking with individuals and at various events, including our council meetings and other things that we're involved in, that we're speaking to some of the same things that you all have brought up, and just making sure they continue to get the word out there.
Okay, great, Don.
Yeah, well, it seems to me that one way of accomplishing that, because I do think it's the entire community, since there's such a variety of needs and people don't know what they don't know.
Right.
But there are so many ways that the city touches people, and if the city could, if we could find a way to include messaging about the senior center in everything that the city does. I mean, I know it's out there on the webpage and so on, but for example, the women's group met yesterday and in the senior center, but there isn't necessarily information about what's available. And I'm not quite sure how you could go about doing that, but making that a point of access for people.
Right, so that would be like a strategy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But I do think that leveraging all the communication that the city already does, because the city, that's our audience, right? Everybody who lives in Fitchburg. I did think that area agency report, Agency on Aging report, was interesting in that they identified a lot of needs, and then their analysis might give you some strategic ideas as well.
Yeah.
But again, it's the same thing that, throughout the county, that it's no different here than anywhere else. So maybe we could just observe also what other focal points are doing.
Yeah.
It strikes me that there were probably a lot of great positive stories here in terms of the Margarets of the world that we serve to make sure that she can stay in her own home. The quilter that is making her 100th quilt or whatever. The men's group, the women's group, what are they doing? Those stories bringing those stories and bubbling those up and telling those stories can really give a better overall picture to the masses of creating awareness of what the senior center does. Whether it's pitching those stories to the website, or to the Fitchburg Star, or the local television stations here. I mean, Jill, you and I have worked on a couple of stories about the meals program based on something we saw nationally, that people weren't getting their meals, and we didn't have that problem, but we pitched a story to, I think it was Channel 15, about what we're doing and the breadth of what we're doing, and to be looking for those stories can really help provide that overall awareness of what the senior center offers. And that's incumbent on everybody who's in the senior center to be looking for those.
Right. So I think go ahead.
I'm just piggybacking on what he's speaking to. In terms of the story, I think one of the things that, from my perspective, is critical is for us to understand and have a foundation. What is our story?
What's our message?
Those are great examples. I totally agree with you there. But we need a fundamental story. What is our story? And I don't think we grasped that yet.
I don't disagree. That is, you know, because before we even move forward, I think that it's kind of the target population in each of these buckets. You know, is the target population the community? Is it the most vulnerable? Is it just general older adults? Is it families and caregivers? And then the strategies under each of them, but the message is the same. But I struggle with the message. Yeah. I struggle with, you know, we've talked about what's your elevator speech. Exactly. I really don't know. And I've looked at classes and I don't know what my elevator speech is unless I refer back to, well, here's our mission, here's our vision. Is that enough? I don't know how to create an elevator speech that, or a strong message that no matter who's out, somehow that piece is always discussed. And so, you know, what is our, you know, besides saying, you know, we want to become a recognized leader in building connections and opportunities to reimagine aging, that's more of a level up here. But if I'm talking to a service provider, a caregiver, you know, a family member, you know, a new older adult that wants to come to the center, like, what is our message? Because we have a mission, we have a vision, but what am I saying that we all would say?
I would say we're here to support people as they age in the manner that best suits them, mm-hmm. and to support them with services and resources, mm-hmm. that they may need, just as a start.
Sure. Bonds?
Hi, I've had my hand up for a while, so now we're on a different topic than what I put my hand up for.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. I was building on something that Paul said regarding the trying to get the message out there of who we are. And I understand the importance of the elevator speech, but for me, I think it's just, it's for people to know we even exist. Not to mention our menu, I call it menu, our services that we provide, but just to know that we're there. And for me, that a big piece of that is communication. I tend to be I need to know, so I went out and figured out who you guys were once I figured out that I could, you know, be involved based on my age. But there's a lot of people who wouldn't do that, and that communication, I think, is key to, I mean, it's an expanded elevator speech. It's not that 5-minute spiel, but it lets people know, kind of like they were saying of ours, the quilter, the meals program, lets people know all the pieces we are. We're not one faceted. We are many. Somebody may come in there just for the card games on Wednesday. Somebody may come in there just for meals, you know, during the week. Somebody may come in for, like I started, functional fitness on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You don't have to be involved in anything, but for me, for anybody to even be involved or give an elevator speech too, they have to know we exist. And I feel that's one of our weaknesses. I know we've talked about this before as far as different ways to reach out and let people know we're there, but it just seems like we are stuck in doing the same things, and we need to think outside of the box. That, to me, that's key. I mean, we can come up with an elevator speech and all that, but people have to know. And then once they know we're there, they need to know what we do. And everybody doesn't get the monthly newsletter, and we need to figure out how to. I know, I can't think of his name now. When he came in and did a presentation last month, he talked about trying to get more people, get that out to more people, the newsletter out to more people. Oh, Dave, thank you. To get the newsletter out to more people in general in Fitchburg. And I think that piece is key. Even if it means somebody takes 2 hours off the first day of the month to drop it off. And you don't have to drop off 100 at every place, but you drop off, 25 here, 50 there. Go to I'm sure it goes to the senior apartments, but go to the grocery store, the bakery over there. Tons of seniors go there for coffee clutches. I see them when I'm there. There's just so many different places that we can at least put the newsletter in so more people are aware of what we do. Yeah, people, 1 or 2 may pick on. I bring 5 to my building every month, and all 5 are always gone by the first week that I bring them. It's not a big thing, but it is another way of getting that message out there. and that newsletter is full of stuff. You know, it's one of our best advertisements and relatively inexpensive compared to other things that we could do. But I think a big piece is communication, and a communication that involves showing who we are in all facets, not just, you know, we're the senior center.
Well, and I think there's active communication and there's passive. Active is going in the face-to-face, the talking. The passive is handing out those newsletters, you know, that kind of stuff. But back to that messaging too. You know, again, outreach is multifaceted, and I do kind of go back to that message. If I am going to go out to a chamber event, which is rare, if I'm going to go out in the community, you know, I do have my connections. What am I saying that we are? And I do struggle with that. And again, I think once that's established, it will help me as we bring more people that might become ambassadors for us, that they understand, here's your message. And then they're also educated about everything else that goes on, because obviously those conversations are gonna hopefully, you know, spin into sharing more information. But if somebody doesn't really have time, you know, tell me what do you do? And again, trying to, you know, empower individuals to be their best selves is one of my favorite lines in our vision statement, because that is what I do think of our department, because we want to meet you where you're at, because everybody's different. So empowering somebody to be their best selves, meaning they get a meal so they can stay at home, because that's as good as it's going to get, because they're 100 years old. Or somebody who's recovering from knee replacement is isolated and needs, you know, it needs to get out and needs functional fitness to get back on their feet, and then starts to engage. So meeting those folks, whomever they are, in whatever stage of aging, that we can, you know, help them in some way. So could that be?
I mean, you know, meeting people where they are, absolutely, right?
Empowering them to
empowering, though,
their best selves.
For me, and how do we do that, really? Mm-hmm. See, I mean, I guess I think it's important. The statements that we make, we've got to be able to give examples of how.
Right.
You know, so I totally agree with you. You know, one of our charges is to meet people where they are, no doubt about it, because everybody's in different spaces in their life at this particular point.
Exactly.
But I guess whatever it is that we say, we've got to be able to back it up with some strong examples. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, the examples that you make, some of the examples that Vance is making. But I totally agree with you, that fundamental statement, this is who we are. Mm-hmm. You know, and like you said, you know, in unwavering, it's, you know, this is who we are, this is what we do.
Right. And
here's some examples of that. So
then so that kind of swings back to our mission statement, mm-hmm. which is, you know, out of all the stuff in the beginning, but really, you know, we could pull in both of these, empowering individuals to be their best selves by providing social, recreational, supportive services, and then such as, you know, would that be something that would be?
Could be.
I like leading with that.
Yeah.
You know, the senior center is here to empower people to be their best selves wherever they are in their aging process, and we can do this by, you know, supportive services.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. We just have to be able to give people examples so it connects to them, right? So I understand that, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know.
Well, it doesn't have to be individual examples either. It can be statistics. We serve X number of meals. We serve congregate and deliver meals. We have how many interest groups. We have programs. We have, you know, you don't have to, you know, drone on, but you could pick a few key ones that really would appeal to a wide range of needs, and just give those as examples as well.
Yeah, and I wasn't implying that we try to say it individually, but yes, some broader things. But there are broader things that then I can say, oh yeah, I understand that. So that's the connection that I'm saying. So.
And I think too, even to say Fitchburg has 6,000 people, you know, or what percentage of the population in Fitchburg is under our umbrella, just so that people get an idea that they can fit in here, that it's not just for a very narrow group of people, the over 85 group or something.
Right,
That we
people
serve
think-
everybody over age 60 or something brief like that to give them,
define that age. Actually,
right,
50.
and to let them know that they're part of our service area.
Yeah, okay.
But I still think we need to make sure we have space for both of those options. I mean, the numbers are great and they speak to me, but you got to remember that in the sense numbers are very intellectual. So they speak to a different type of person than the actual activity does. And so, you know, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, yeah, I support what you're saying. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. I think there's a place for both options or some combination of them, but I think we can't just, I mean, it's important to have numbers, don't get me wrong. But we can't just put that in it. I think there's got to be more for you to broaden your outreach.
So,
Because as a person renting an apartment as a senior in Madison, the numbers don't matter to me. I don't care how many people you have. That's great. Happy, happy, joy, joy. But you tell me you've got quilting, you've got functional fitness, you've got, you know, all those other things besides what I would consider, quote unquote, the basics like the meal program and that, social work services and that. Then you're talking to me. Then I'm like, well, maybe I should stop by there sometime.
yeah, I don't disagree.
The other thing I want to say real quick.
Yeah, I think the numbers could be used, like if we're going out and targeting community sponsors, you know, we've got X number of meals, or we're trying to, you know, increase such and such, and we might be looking. So I think now in my mind, what I'm thinking I can do is draft a message, elevator, I don't like elevator speech or whatever, that would sort of be both. It would be one of just more general, because maybe somebody might not feel comfortable giving numbers if they're just, doing an outreach event, because then they couldn't understand, I can't follow up on that. But then also when we're going out for different, whatever you're most comfortable, you read your audience too. Like, well, how many people go to functional fitness? Well, we got 25, 3 days a week. So then we have those numbers. So I'll develop both.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting just numbers.
No, I know, but I think it's important too.
But I think you could say, you could talk about somebody who attended a functional fitness program.
Correct.
And the improvements that they made, or just give a testimonial from them.
Yeah.
You could think of it as an introductory speech instead of an elevator speech, right?
Yeah.
Introducing yourself.
I think that's kind of where you're starting. I know you've used elevator speech today,
I just don't like that word.
But you've used it as an introductory in the past, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that word better.
Yeah. And I think that's really your purpose.
Yes, and not just for me, but for anybody, because I do want to utilize, you as commission members, you are ambassadors, the Friends are ambassadors, we have the multicultural group that's, gone to some outreach events, and so that we're always on the same page and we're sending the same message, so.
So there's both this message piece and maybe a small working group could help you and craft some target, some language, and a combination of quantitative and qualitative would be good without.
So that feels good, and that's a message that everybody can hear regardless who our target audience is. Yeah.
An equal challenge in my mind, and something maybe Paul, given your professional background, might have expertise in is what is the marketing plan? And marketing not in the buy our product, but kind of creating that awareness.
It's a communication plan.
It is a communication, but the how do we can have the best language put together, but to whom are we going to share that, and how do we get that out there? And it used to be so obvious. In 30 years ago, it was clear how you did that. Today, it isn't nearly as clear. So
there's more outlets.
There are, and populations that we might serve that might not be tapping any of those outlets. So
absolutely.
How do you connect? How do you get that message out to people who might not be?
So we've talked about delivering. We talked about outreach, and we typically think of us going out. Has the senior center ever brought people in?
You know, I would,
I mean.
yeah, that's a good,
You know, where, and I'm just.
no, we have
And the
had
schools sometimes do that.
open houses.
Or,
Yeah.
you know, the chamber,
Or the city,
invite the
yeah.
chamber people to come in and do a little, I want to say, dog and pony show. That talks about who we are and also provide some examples, specific stories of how we're helping and empower them to go back into their worlds and help spread that message. Has that ever been done?
So I'll just quickly, years ago for National Senior Center Month through the Friends, we've done several over the years, open houses, inviting people to come in. We had free appetizers, and we actually set up, one year we set up demos, like so the craft group would be in the craft room, one of the exercise persons was up there doing a demo, and we had different areas all set up and welcome people from the community to come and learn about it. And then I think we even had a silent auction. Anyway, the years blur, but we haven't done it recently.
Was it successful?
Yeah,
Did
it
people
was.
come?
It was. Yeah, it was very successful. Yeah.
I like that idea.
Can you describe how it was successful?
There was a lot of new people that hadn't come to the center before that came to learn about the center.
Did they continue coming?
You know, we're not good about, you know, we talked about tracking numbers. We didn't take people's names or anything like that. It was a very casual, just fun event. But I know that people that did come came back for certain things. I can't give statistics.
That's just my question.
Yeah, for sure. But, you know, I think that was a nice public awareness. You know, Janice and I have talked about, we used to semi-regularly go out to neighborhood associations. Oh, that's when we went out. We brought in apartment managers and did trainings, but that's been years and years. Yeah. So that's sort of on my list. I am part of the faith community, so, you know, getting the word out to them. We just had a meeting recently. Go ahead, Donald.
Well, I was just going to say a perfect opportunity to do this is the mayor is having these. Oh, you already know?
But yeah, tell the group. Tell the group.
Is having these different, I don't want to call them listening sessions, but like community sessions in each district. And invite, of course, and then the alders representing that district will go out, share information, and engage with individuals as well. And aside from the district ones, or it could be in conjunction with, I don't know, maybe the one, what district is this one? 4? The senior center, I think, because when they redrew the maps, it's not in 3 anymore.
Okay.
So it's not in my, but it may be hosted here.
Oh,
And let
that's a great idea,
the
Don.
mayor come, and then like the police will be there, the fire, who else? I don't remember who else she invited, but she's doing these throughout it. Maybe that one could be here.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
Yeah, I think she's doing District 2 in April.
2 is in April, and then, she started with 2.
Okay, that's a great idea. So no, bringing people in is a good idea because then they see it, they see us. And so besides like an open house or apartment managers, who else would be good to bring in here?
I think the community, in addition to community leaders, I think also to put the invite out there, business people in our community. I mean, that's also a vehicle where, you know, they become more aware. They have a clientele. Maybe they have regular people who come in for whatever, and they can share their knowledge with them. I don't know. That could be another quasi partnership. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mentioned the chamber as a possible chamber members, business leaders.
Oh, okay.
You know, that's a good idea because the chamber has like a business before 9, and maybe we can host that.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm sorry, what is the business before 9?
I think they just gather. Have you been, Donald? What is it like?
So they do them sometimes in the morning. They do like a coffee one.
Yeah.
Where it's literally they have coffee and refreshments and people network.
Is there's no topic or anything?
Sometimes, but most of the time it's just people networking. And then they do them in the evenings too, like a happy hour one.
Yeah, right.
Where it's the kind of the same type of deal. And then usually wherever they're having it is the host and they provide the refreshments and drinks and stuff.
Okay.
The patio.
Jill, I volunteer to help out with the evening one.
Well,
Okay.
it's a social occasion, but there's also got to be some structure to it.
Oh, right.
You got these people.
Absolutely.
You got these people here.
You got a
We
captive
gotta-
audience,
Yeah, we
right?
got to let them have it.
Yeah, Barb said we could do
There's a purpose behind this.
after hours, and the patio is so nice, and the lights, and, okay.
In the summer.
Yeah, in the summer. Mhm.
Oh, that would be pretty.
Yeah.
You know, another thing I thought of, and I'm not sure how it's used because I've never seen it being used, and maybe that's just my bad timing. Don't we have a video screen or something in our entrance hall?
Yeah,
Like
right
where-
by Susie's desk.
Yeah. It seems to me that could also be, now granted you have to be in the building, but like I know the Mindy does a regular video about what's going on at the center every week.
Yeah.
You talk about highlighting different things like the fitness. You can interview the teacher and then show some clips of the classes. Same thing with card making, quilting, the different, card games. It just seems like that's another way to let people know of the different things that are in without somebody having to be there and talk to them about it. I mean, granted, they have to be in the center, but I've seen people standing there just waiting for Susie.
Yeah.
That's another way to reach out to people who may not be aware of all the services we have in that facility.
Okay.
That's a good point. And, right now, Mandy's message is, here's what's coming up at the senior center.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we reposition that a little bit, and maybe she spends a minute talking about one specific program.
Mm-hmm. With more details,
With more detail.
data.
Here's the quilting, here's the men's group, and
Yeah. Go out and Yeah, they used to go off-site a lot and interview businesses, and then, but we
is that
should.
right?
Yeah, and it was it was a win-win. Say they'd go to Irish Lane because they gave us flowers, and then they would promote Irish Lane, but we could promote our own things.
Or
internally.
Mandy interviewing one of the meal people.
Right.
What does Meals on Wheels mean to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're hearing it.
I like that idea.
Right from the end user.
Right.
Or someone in one of the clubs.
And then maybe that could possibly also run on FACTv at some point or some variation of it too.
Jeremy, are you in there listening?
He's thinking about all
Well,
the
because
production that goes into this.
Yeah. Do you want to come?
So Jeremy's running away.
So this is kind of along the lines, this is, what we're talking about is a lot of people that access the electronic information, the newsletters, and then I kind of want to swing back to those that don't.
Yes.
And talking about probably more vulnerable populations that aren't getting this information and how are we reaching them. But Jeremy, do you want to talk about this? Oh, it's Nick.
He's like, not really.
Oh, do you want to talk about these things?
He's sharing the opportunity.
The news flashes and the notifies me's? Okay, all right, well, all the directions are here. It's all good.
I can answer any quick questions.
Well, so Jeremy shared, and this is good information, the notify me's on the city website. And so we put some programs, so you can sign up to get notified about anything. You can get notified about public meetings, road closures. If you sign up with Public Works, you can notify me as to get your senior center newsletter in your mailbox. So this is a really good communication tool for people to sign up for cities. Notify me if you want to watch a certain meeting. And so I'm going to pass these out, and then how the city communicates. And I'm not going to go through all of this, but FACTv has a lot of different ways to access information. And so you got anything more?
We're on Facebook and YouTube and
Right.
all the different newsletters and stuff.
It's pretty much any way that someone would want to get information, they can get it from us if they know where to find it.
Right, yeah.
Just kind of what
So,
we're trying to promote, is finding different ways.
yeah, and so I think the one pager they developed too, this is just a communication plan for the city too, so it's nice. So we'll pass these out. I want to give FACTv credit because they do a lot for us and they really try to help get the word out and do a lot of filming of programs, and they're playing. We have access now to lunch and learns that you can watch after the fact, and so just other ways that you can get information. So again, what about people that don't know about us? What does outreach look like, or connecting with people that don't know about us? Yeah.
Wait, when we do mail delivery, do they include a newsletter in that? the beginning of the month?
Yes.
I do not.
It's in their bags.
Oh, it's in their bag?
Yeah, we always put it in their bags because they need
I
a
never
menu.
looked.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
I've done this for 5 years. I
Yeah,
didn't know.
yeah. At the beginning of the month, all the people get a newsletter in there because they don't know what the menu is. So they like to know what
Right.
But they do get a newsletter.
I'm
But
getting to the network.
Okay.
they already know about us
I was
if they're
gonna
getting
say
meals.
I was gonna say.
Well, no, it's not so much.
Degree because they're getting our meals.
Yeah, they already have a
But there's
social worker.
people that, I think, when you speak of that, I'm thinking there's people that have no idea that we
There's a-
even exist. How do
there's
we
a-
get to those
that, right,
people?
right.
Yeah.
And that's where we struggle the most. And a lot of senior centers, we're not alone. You know, it's just senior center, that's not for me. They don't know.
Exactly. Yeah,
You
and
know.
that goes back to
The name change.
Yeah.
That's a whole different meeting. But
Yeah.
you know, think about, give me some thoughts, just, you know, it's right or wrong. Somebody doesn't know about us in this community. And I do look at places that don't feel as connected, town of Madison, over on the other side of Verona Road. You know, they don't, when you're logistically set apart, you're mentally and emotionally not part of something too oftentimes, you know? So what do we do?
How do we get to the network of people around those people?
Can I?
Yeah.
Okay. For me, I think there's certain areas that perhaps we connect with alders, right? And set up some kind of meetings with them, or we go to them, you know, how we meet people where they are.
Yeah.
And we take our information to them. You know, I don't know, you know, and there's specific areas and that need that. We have to go to them, meet them where they are. And I think if we can work with alders and set up some meetings, I don't know if, you know, for example, I'm going to use an example of Joe Maldonado. He spoke at one of our sessions, and he talked about he goes to a meeting where with his group, his community,
district.
right? And so there, maybe that's an opportunity to go in and talk to them that way, explain what we do, who we are, that kind of thing. I just think that's just one example, but I do think, you know, let's take a look, how do we get into those communities and get our word out, get our message out to them? Because we can't sit and wait for them to come
Right,
to us, because they don't know about
They
us.
don't know.
So when my mother was alive, she lived at Chapel Valley Apartments. And I remember that, I don't know if it was every other month or quarterly, they would have a group residential meeting and talk about all sorts of things related to the complex and living and all of that stuff. And I don't know if people still do that today.
Yeah, Amy's down there quite a bit. We have, you know, the senior apartments are a lot easier because a lot of them have community rooms. So we're at the Limerick, we're at the Highline, we're at Chapel Valley, we're at McKee, we're at Novation Commons. But when we look at the Pines, New Fountains over off of Verona Road, Sun Valley, Valley View, that you know, where you live on. It's like, you know, there's mixed ages, and they don't often have community events and community rooms. It's harder to connect in those areas sometimes. Yeah.
Maybe first step is to find out, do they have community rooms? Do
Yeah,
they have
and
a
the
place where
apartment,
we can-
the apartment breakfast, the apartment's manager meeting, you know, bringing them here to educate them would be good too. But meeting the older adults where they're at, but educating the apartment managers too. Sorry, I was just thinking, I was talking while I was thinking
For
about
clarification, when you say educate the apartment managers, you mean the apartment managers of buildings like mine who may have seniors in it, but they're not. Yeah, I would agree totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
Yeah, Donna?
And perhaps
Because my apartment manager did not realize the senior center was literally open to anybody over 60.
Yeah.
She just assumed you had to be elderly,
You have to be
or
85.
disabled, or need to. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So even explaining that to them would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's out there.
That I can,
You know, it's a myth, but that's,
Oh, yeah.
So I've had several ways then to potentially engage with known populations of potential clients in senior housing locations and so on. So, but taking that even one step more removed and trying to create more of a glow or a more comprehensive or far-reaching awareness of what we do, and where are there populations that, if we had a road show,
Yeah.
and we had, at the university, we had a team of people who had, several teams that went out to all kinds of populations, and they literally had something they wheeled around and set up to inform. But if there was something that went out to our farmers market, or the music in the park, at McKee Park.
Yep,
They're
that's on our,
hugely attended.
yeah.
And are we there now? Okay.
Always have.
I think I
I
agree
don't,
with you.
and I go to that, I didn't know we were there.
No, we're not, we started it, we used to be
Yeah,
there, we're
yeah.
not anymore.
Yeah, just by way of an example
No, you're
of,
right.
of a more diverse population of people that might see information and think, this might be right for my aunt or my mom,
Right.
or agree, again, getting to just a larger,
Right.
creating a larger awareness for donors, volunteers, and potential.
Right, so that on the
But also look at farmers markets that may not be in the norm. There's a South Madison farmers market, and it really does. Most of the people I've seen there are people of color.
Where is that held?
On Parks.
It's right off of Rimrock and
Oh, by the Badger Rock?
yeah. But there's a lot of Fitchburg people of color who go there. I go there because of they have things that I don't see at the regular market, like collard greens.
I met with the community center director at Badger Rock last summer, and we talked about collaborating. So those are good ideas because I've developed a list of outreach that we can do with the concerts. The farmers markets have a lot of older adults. That Badger Rock area, we still have the River Food Pantry, the Munchmobile, which is a great outreach opportunity, which opens up to, it was, for kids during the summer, but now it's open all year, and it's anybody that is food insecure, and they have several locations. So, I've had the social workers go at those times, but to really increase our connections and not spreading the staff, because we can't be there all the time, every time in every location, but they're at Southdale, they're at Town of Madison, or if that is Southdale, they're over in Allied Drive, they're over by Highline, is to train other volunteers that could just be there and hand out information too, and make those connections. So I have a whole list that I'll bring to you guys at the next meeting of places that we can be present in the community all the time throughout this year.
But there's also something to the fact that we also need to take a look at the districts that we have here, right? And I agree with you about McKee Park. I live right near McKee Park, and so yes, there's a variety of individuals there, but it depends on what segment of the community are we also trying to target. If indeed we are looking at, and I hope we are, targeting people of color to some degree, McKee Park is not, that's not going to get it. But if you look at some districts.
I've never been there.
We've got to take a look at where districts are we not drawing those individuals from. I know it was great when you showed that graph of the number of people of color that are here.
Right.
We need to figure out, so where are they in terms of districts, and how do we get to those individuals to share our story and let them know that we.
So what we talked about as a staff too, when the city brought on the Town of Madison, they did huge outreach events with these picnics. Now, they stopped doing it, but I thought it was a really impactful way to connect with the community. So we on our own are gonna try to plan a picnic across from Highline, in that community, in the hub space, right across the street.
That's where the new complex is going up to.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people that don't feel connected there. And then we still need to get over by the Boys and Girls Club and Allied Drive.
Absolutely.
And that is a really neglected area.
Yeah.
Very neglected. And so, that is a priority for me to figure out, again, I know we're doing a lot of stuff at the Boys and Girls Club, but that's still, that other side of Verona Road is so neglected. And to try to get folks here, we have a few people, but not very many.
But that's why I mentioned Joe Maldonado and
Yeah,
her.
in his district,
That's
yes.
their district.
Making those connections.
That's their district.
Yeah.
And how do we work with them
That's
to
great.
reach those constituents there?
Right, because it's not all on me.
No,
I mean,
it's
we
not.
have, you know,
No,
and,
it's
and
not.
learning that,
This is the city
Yeah.
here. It's in our city.
yeah,
And so, but I think it's important that we do target, you know, those areas that we are not touching, that we've just got to make that effort.
yeah, no, I don't disagree, And, you know, the things that the mayor is doing, and then on top of that, our own
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Because then it's just about us and bringing people together. I mean, there's a really nice shelter over there. It's been several years that we went over there on a Saturday with, even before LunaFest, and did something over on King James Way. And they have a really beautiful shelter over there, and we set up our information, and it was, you know, geared towards families and everything. I can't remember who was hosting it, but we were a partner agency there. So more of that we've kind of lost. We've just lost that piece, and we need to get back to that.
And I guess this all goes back to us putting together a plan.
A plan, right, because now my head is spinning.
Yeah.
And how,
Yeah.
now in the next meeting,
Yeah.
how can the people around this table help you prepare or take a step or two forward to bring something back for us to maybe start
I think the
looking at or
messaging,
into?
what do we call it?
Introductory speech.
Introductory speech, if somebody needs to know, I'm happy to work with that. I think, you know, I have a lot of thoughts about our ideas, concrete ideas about outreach.
Yeah.
And now prioritizing, because we only have so much time,
Yeah.
right, and so much
And
resources.
what are we trying to grow at this point?
Right. So,
Can I make a suggestion?
yes,
We, like you said, we've talked about a lot of different, I would say, strategies. Can you, Jill, lump them into groupings, like neighborhood outreach versus communication, electronic, or versus? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I do.
If you can take, I mean, just making groupings of them, and then we can go through. This is a suggestion. We can go through and talk about each grouping, how we can help focus or suggest ideas to reach those, or maybe we even break into. I know our meetings aren't that long, but as opposed to all of us talking, maybe in breaking the groups of two, and each group of two takes one of those areas. Like maybe Paul and I take communication in general, electronic, the newsletters, and all of that, and write down different ideas about that. And then you and Janice can take another grouping and write down all the deals about that. And then we come back together and share. I'm trying to figure out how we can get more done in such a short period of time, but still hit the goals that we're trying to hit.
If we work
And again, this is just a
offline
suggestion.
before the next meeting and bring back a couple of maybe summary documents, kind of what Vaughn's is saying, but maybe pre-do.
That's what that's what I was thinking too, Vaughn's trying to do it quicker, because I hate to wait till the next meeting and then we make a decision. You know what I mean? If we can take a few folks, whoever is interested, and then, you know, I shoot out a day and a time, and, you know, or we,
Okay.
you know, I don't want to call it an ad hoc, but a meeting in between.
A working.
And if there's more than three of us, we have to make notice of it. But I think we need to work on this before the next meeting, because it's taking too long. And, you know, and maybe at that meeting, but it's that same idea, except we do it in between meetings. And so does that make sense? Because I do feel like, you know, we're in March. Like I am feeling anxious about not doing more and getting out there. It's getting warm. We have good opportunities. The mayor's going to be out and about. So I'd like to do that if everybody's interested. And
I would love, that makes sense. That's kind of what I was trying to figure out how to do.
Okay. All right. So it'll be on the messaging. We'll work on that. And then we'll work on prioritizing the outreach. I mean, there's defining it, and then there's prioritizing it.
Right.
So once we define and prioritize it, you know, that's just what we need. So we get our message, we get our how are we gonna prioritize?
Yeah.
And then some of those outreach efforts, those strategies, will be different depending on what priority.
And some will be short-term, some will be long-term.
Exactly, yeah, yeah, okay, Paul?
The one thing that I think we need to keep thinking about when we talk about what a goal is, there are three things that really go into a goal. First of all, there has to be a result. It has to be measurable, and there has to be a time frame to it.
Yep, yeah.
So a goal might be,
So hard.
a goal might be increase Hispanic participation at the senior center by 20% over the next 2 years. That's a goal.
Right,
Then you can go back and measure.
right. No, I had that on there,
But
measurements
sometimes
of
goals
success.
it gets real nebulous.
Right, how do we track if we're gonna increase people of color, how are we
Right.
tracking that,
Right.
You got,
you know?
if you don't measure it, you just
Well,
not.
right, I totally agree.
And just one more thing for your outreach bucket, when we talk about the Hispanic population, isn't there a Hispanic radio station in town?
Yeah,
That would be
yeah,
something to target.
yeah, so that can kind of be under that communication plan,
Yep.
so, okay, all right.
So, if we're done, can I ask a question? This is a different
Yeah.
subject. We worked on transportation, and we never put closure to that. Are we putting a pin in that? Can we put some closure to that?
Thank you for bringing that up. We are gonna put a pin in it.
Okay.
I think, recently there's I think you've all been notified about a wheel tax possibly coming. And there's some discussion at the city level about what that money might be used for. And until I understand that, I think we're gonna put a pin in this. And Donald, do you wanna add anything?
If you have questions, I can answer.
Well, there's questions, so give us some answers.
What's the question?
What's the question? What's going on? That's
So this was brought, I forget what meeting, it was a while ago. And many other surrounding municipalities do this. So basically, the Fitchburg is proposing a wheel tax. So people who have a car, part of the registration fee and all of those things would be a wheel tax added to it. I believe it's like $40 or something like that for each resident in the city. The point of this is a alternative to the referendum not passing and a way to us to make some money as a city to be able to expand the transportation that we have in the city. So that could be used for the bus rapid transit system, those type of things, extending those routes. But that is one of the alternative ways, since we didn't get those funds from there, to try to increase some revenue for the city outside of our net new construction.
So Donald, would that be a council decision, or is it whether or not that would go to another referendum?
yeah.
It won't go to another referendum. We won't, that would be silly right now to do it right now. So we definitely decided against that. It'll be a council decision. The vote will be at the April 8th meeting. And there was a vote on Tuesday not a vote, but a consensus on Tuesday to basically have more community discussion around it. So there'll be, like, if you go on the website right now, there's a whole, Fitchburg has created a website about it. There's information there, you can go look. And then there'll also be some more community meetings. And I think Chad is checking on to, for the next council, the April 8th council meeting, making that a public hearing. So what that means is, everybody knows what that is, I don't need to explain it, right? Okay, so instead of like at the beginning of the meeting where we have public comment for non-agenda items, it'll be like an actual public hearing where you can come register. People will get, well, depending on how many people it is, 2 to 3 minutes, et cetera, to express their displeasure or they want the wheel tax and things like that, and then it'll be voted on there.
It's per car, per vehicle?
Yes.
I think that it's not, it came out Tuesday night, so this is public knowledge now. I think something went out.
It's been on the news.
It's been on the news? Okay, so.
Because we voted on this, we talked about this a while ago, and then it was as we were prepping for the referendum, and then after that didn't pass, it came about again because of we have to figure out one of the ways to get some revenue as well, so. We had a couple people come speak about it Tuesday too. But
And at this point, the vision would be that those revenue dollars would be specifically targeted at transportation needs.
I don't want to say 100% yes, because that decision hasn't been definitively made, but that's the direction that it's leaning in.
Would it cover streets and improvements too, or just
Could, yeah, absolutely.
a lot of potholes?
Somebody brought that up on Tuesday, so definitely trying to get it because, I mean, the one thing is, I think we have and I don't want to get into too much into like taxes and stuff for this meeting because we have other things to say, but there's this assumption that like Fitchburg, like, well, you guys keep trying to increase taxes. Like our taxes actually have been relatively fat from the city. What you see going up in the taxes is things from like Madison College, the school districts, etc. And ours have remained relatively flat. And I don't think that message got out there well enough, which is why our referendum didn't pass, possibly. But this would just be another thing to where we try to get some funds because the primary source of income right now comes from our net new construction, but we can't just kind of continually build unless it's like an efficient and like smart way of growth and making sure that we are able to continue to serve these areas if we're going to build with the urban services and those type of things too. So.
You know, it's interesting when you said that message hasn't gotten out there. It may not, and you may be correct about it's the Madison College and all that. At the end of the day, though, it hits people's pockets, and at some point they don't care where it's coming from. It's just this is what's hitting my pocket as a taxpayer.
The bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When I pay my every year, I'm not tearing it apart and saying what. I'm saying, oh my God, look at this bottom number here. So,
absolutely, yeah, and you're absolutely right. We just wanted to make, like, it wasn't a thing where you're like, Fitchburg is constantly raising, you know, our tax rates and things like that. So that was just the message we were trying to differentiate when kind of selling these things to the public.
Would that be billed out in the property tax bill?
That part I don't know. I don't think
It's in your like vehicle registration renewal or license plate.
Yeah, the city of Madison.
It goes to, yeah, it'll be like kind of how Madison, Sunbury, like
We
those,
currently
like how they do it.
a wheel tax.
It will go through the DOT and I think come back to the
To
city.
the city.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, Janice.
You're welcome.
No, seriously,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
I just
It makes
think that
sense.
we're doing the
Right,
transportation
because we
thing, and
just
I want
stopped.
some closure.
Right.
Now I know what it means to put a pin in it.
If we're gonna put a pin in it, I'm gonna put a pin in it,
Yeah.
see what happens, and so, you know, I think, I'm glad to hear there's a public hearing on it, I think, you know, it's good, city to be transparent about it, and we'll just see where that goes.
Yeah, I just wanted us to put
No,
closure to it and move on to what we.
I appreciate it, yeah, because in my mind, I pinned it a while back.
Yeah, okay.
And forgot to tell you all, so thank you for bringing that up. All right.
Okay, so you will get a note out to everyone regarding
Yep.
small groups for coming up with an introductory message and targets for the outreach. And then we'll work on that before the April meeting and come back with something to react to.
Yes.
Or maybe possibly even send it out for review in advance so that we can shorten the discussion.
Yep, I think what I'll do is I'll send out like a poll, like with several dates, and you guys click the dates that are gonna work for you. We're just gonna have to go with whoever wants to come and the most people, and then I'll notice it, because anytime we have more than 3, we have to notice it, and then that will be a better way to move this forward, because I wanna get moving, so that's perfect, thank you.
Okay. Any more on our, okay, report from the senior center, friends, Jerry.
Okay, still working on, preparing for our pancake breakfast on August 27th.
April.
Pardon me, yeah, April 27th.
You won that too.
Pardon?
You won in August too.
Okay, that's a good idea. We do our broad prize then. But anyway, Otherwise, we're preparing for a travel show at the Senior Center in April on the 23rd. It'll be in conjunction with Mayflower, and this is featuring their 2026 programs. They include a cruise in and around Hawaii, Seine River cruise, discovery of Croatia and Slovenia, Mount Rainier and Olympic National Parks, and colorful canyons and beautiful balloons, which be 6 national parks in the Southwest. And that will be on April 23rd at 1 o'clock at the Fitchburg Senior Center. Otherwise, we've assisted the Senior Center with their special needs program to the tune of about $650 for the month.
And head back to work. See y'all later.
Okay, that's it for my report.
Jerry, anyone can attend the travel programs,
Yes,
correct?
definitely.
So would that not be another way to, for outreach for the Senior Center? To,
In terms of,
well, I mean, anyone, you don't have to be over 60 to
Right.
go on any of these tours. So, and I don't know if other people, mostly it's members of the Senior Center who have attended. I'm just speaking, thinking that that's a way to target more people to come to the Senior Center, know
by
about
having the
what's
travel
available,
show.
and
Yeah.
take a trip
Mhm.
if they're so interested. And the funds go to the Senior Center anyway, so.
Right,
it'd be-
special needs.
right? Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna give you guys this.
Now we have Jill.
So instead of, you know, I talked about how we as a city departments have to give monthly reports now, not annual. And so we've been doing this for a year, and they kind of kept them just giving them to council, and I mentioned this last month. But now it's fine for us to distribute, and it didn't make the packet, and I don't know if it ever will, because we never have our ducks in a row. So anyway, I might be just bringing hard copies to you every month. So we just submitted this yesterday. So this is our February report, and so this is a nice screenshot of, you know, what each, I guess, staff sort of is doing. So we've got, these are the categories that we have picked to show council sort of some of the activity that's going on each month. Programs, so Dave fills out those programs, and I don't want to read through all of this. We try to highlight some of the new programs, and then we have ongoing, talks about the newsletter, and then on there is monthly foot traffic and average daily foot traffic. That's from that people counter, from the doors. And again, this is between the hours of 8 and 4. We're very cognizant of days that it might be high, like we had voting on the 18th, so we took those numbers out. So in February, we had 4,425 people come through the doors, and it averages out 221 people a day, which is kind of where we thought we were, between 200 and 250. We always have to give a meal report to the county anyway, so Mandy's able to share the meal totals. Is 1,474 meals in the month of February. And then we've added a volunteer program update. We added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new volunteers came on board in February, doing different things from blood pressure nurse, we've got a meal driver, a kitchen volunteer, and we started recruiting for people to be hosts in the dining room, because we have a lot of people with needs that can't get up and get coffee, or maybe they're just sitting at a table alone, and we want to make sure they feel comfortable, and staff is too busy to run out there. So we're adding a host person each day for the meal site, and it's been really nice. And so they engage with people, they get them coffee, and it's just been working out really nice. So so we have that category. The social workers always put how many people they've served. We had 9 new referrals And that can be from people walking in the doors, it could be from a home health agency, it could be from a neighbor, it could be from a family member out of town. And then Medicaid clients, we're kind of tracking those separately because those are billable hours, and then just overall. And then they also put in trends because we have to give county reports every quarter. And so we are asked to put in trends that we're seeing. Very sad, in February, we have 2 older adults we're still dealing with that are getting scammed, and it's so hard to watch. And one is a dating scam, and it's a lot of money that this individual has given this scammer, and the police are involved, and it's just really sad, the family's involved. The other one is a situation with a couple that they're trying to protect their identity, so the scammer is saying, oh, if you buy this program, you buy this, you do this, so they keep wiring money. And it's so hard to hear these stories, no matter how often you do programs about scams, these folks are getting scammed. So we're seeing that this month. Again, some non-renewals for apartments, and the housing clinic up at the Boys and Girls Club in partnership with Joining Forces for Families is, seeing clients pretty regularly, families as well as older adults, so that's continuing. And then in my report, I just kind of follow along with other administrators. You put in meetings that you've attended, things you're working on. One thing I think we finalized with DaneNet is a program to get free computers, and we'll be offering some classes soon. So they've got some more grant money, so we are now a partnering agency, so we can do some classes. We finalized the agreement with LPI, so they're going to be taking on the publishing and printing of our newsletter, and so hopefully by July we will have a full color newsletter. We will have more business sponsors, but they're responsible for getting all the sponsors. So right now Dave deals with the sponsors, we send it to the printer, blah, blah, blah. LPI will be taking all of that on. So by July, hopefully we'll have a color newsletter. And so this is kind of what I'll kind of report on every month.
And this went from annual to monthly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is nice, but we still try to gather data for a year to year because it's just important. So anyway, but this is what we do monthly, every department, and then it goes to the mayor and council.
How much more work is
hopefully they read it
this every month?
You know what? It's not. It's okay. It's not bad. I think in the beginning we were all like, "What? This is we got to gather this data." But once we understand what we're capturing, and if there's other areas that you think we should be capturing, this is a template. We can change this. So anyway, that's my report. Good thing we talk about Janice. I wasn't there, but we had a wonderful Black History Month event. That was coordinated through Janice.
Very, very well attended. The dining room was filled from wall to wall.
Yeah.
And in the hallways, the mayor was there, and some of the alders were there. But it was really good. It certainly helped with the lunch numbers as well. Mandy was excited for the number of people that came. That also had lunch. But there was a variety of people from the community, and and also across Dane County that actually came out here. And were surprised. There was another way of people learning about Fitchburg Center.
And Janice just plugged us and plugged us and plugged us.
We had some people that signed up for newsletters, had some people that that are coming back. So it was really good.
And I think have you looked at the video, the link?
Yeah.
Oh, good, okay. And so I'll send it to all of you because Jeremy was there and filmed it and I missed it, so I want to watch it. But just the history of Black people in Madison, right?
It really was. It was the daughters of the first Black settlers in the Madison-Dane County area, and also one of those individuals was the first Black female police officer for the Madison department. And then one was the executive for the T&T program, and that goes on Channel 3 to Daytime Tomorrow. So it was a lot of history there beyond them being first settler families there, but it was amazing, and a lot of people that were there grew up in that area and still didn't know a lot of that. So they were like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I didn't know this. So yeah, it was very beneficial, very.
Yeah, so
Very
thanks for
good.
putting that together.
You know, Jill, looking at this, you probably, in terms of future content, some of the things that we've discussed this morning should go in.
Right there. Once we get the plan,
Yeah.
particularly
So-
once we get the
Working on
plan.
it.
Yeah.
I do have a question. The last time Dave came, he gave a great presentation. But we talked about he was gonna schedule a meeting so we could all get together and give suggestions.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't heard that.
No, you're right. He did meet one-on-one with Donald about the programs that Donald uses to capture data, but that wasn't what he wanted you guys to see.
No, that's
So
not
I'll
what we
remind
were-
him.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, Paul, to start to, I added continued work and discussions at commission level on ideas and initiatives for future growth, but now we can kind of hone in on that a little bit more. So, I like doing this because it does make you think, like, what are you doing all month and what are we doing? And then we can compare from month to month too, so.
Well, and I think with in any business, when you can reflect back on what you do, and you say, is this really where we should be spending our time? Or not? You can use that for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, measurement, measuring, so.
Along with what Janice said, is this a one-way document? You give it to the city council, do they ever give you feedback on it and say,
Right.
hey, we like this part, anything?
No.
No? Black hole for you, huh?
I think it's for council and the mayor, hopefully, a way to inform what departments are doing every month, keeps them up to date, and for you guys too now, so that's kind of nice, but, no, I'm assuming if somebody didn't like it, they would tell me, but I'm not, yeah.
Or
I
raise
shouldn't assume,
questions.
or raise questions, like,
yeah.
is that all you're serving, or,
I'd like to know more about
we
that,
can-
or send me the link for the
Exactly.
FACTv and the Black
Right.
History presentation.
Yeah.
Maybe, or that's something you could include in there.
What's that?
A link to the.
Oh, yeah, to a program.
To a
That's good
program.
idea. Yeah.
They can watch it. Are there any other questions for Jill? Are there any other items that anyone would like to discuss? Any other announcements? Our next meeting is April 10th, right here, same time, same place. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.